Hi, I'm John Shipp. Welcome to my art analysis channel. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Nighthawks by Edward Hopper. But first, if you've seen previous episodes, you'll know that I look for an artistic technique called multi-referencing, where artists take parts from several works of art by another artist and incorporate it into a single work of their own. Now, two inventions happened in the 19th century which affected multi-referencing. The first is photography, invented in the 1820s. Artists could reference photographs, a group of photographs by the same photographer, or they could reference several photographs of a person. And photographs also could use the multi-reference technique. Then in the 1890s, film was invented, movies. And to advertise the movies, what was called film stills or movie stills were created, which were photographs of the movie production or still images of the movies themselves. And artists would reference those quite a bit, I think.
Keep in mind that this is all my opinion, and that you might have other opinions about paintings that I talk about, and that's great. My objective is to have you look more at art and talk more about art. Nighthawks is Edward Hopper's most famous painting. It is owned by the Art Institute of Chicago. To me, this painting tells a story of lust, murder, and war, subjects which might seem to be a far reach from the group sitting solemnly in a diner at night. These are my methods for analyzing Nighthawks. Hidden shapes and multi-references are not what most people use to interpret artworks, but they are the most useful tools of all, especially when it comes to Edward Hopper. Hopper started painting Nighthawks only days after the attack on Pearl Harbor and the U.S. entering World War II. In this video, I'll show you how Hopper connects this historical event with Nighthawks. First, let's look at definitions involved with the painting. I think Hopper is combining the bird of prey definition with people that stay up late at night to create late-night people who prey on other people. The cigar in the Phillies ad looks like an owl gliding above its prey, waiting to snatch up a meal. Philly spelled with an F is a word for a vibrant young woman, like the pretty redhead at the bar. The definitions of nick include cutting or stealing, both activities of criminals. In the nick of time is at the critical moment. The possible association of Nighthawks with the Ernest Hemingway story The Killers has already been suggested by Gail Levin, who has written many books about Edward Hopper, and I absolutely agree. The Killers is a story of mobsters coming into a diner with the intent to kill a boxer. Hopper is referencing Hemingway to reinforce his story of a mobster-type character and murder. Now let's look at Nighthawks itself. Three people sitting at a diner with an obvious employee in white in the middle of the bar. The bartender bends forward to fix a new drink for the man sitting at the end of the bar, the man with his back to us, a man described as sinister in Joe Hopper's journal. Joe Hopper is Edward Hopper's wife. The sinister man holds a glass with his arm positioned like he is holding a gun. There is no door at the front of the bar, which Gail Levin has also mentioned. There is no entrance or exit to the bar, yet we the viewer can see in to the lit fishbowl that is the late-night diner. All the stores nearby are closed. Now let's look at hidden shapes. There are two bird shapes seen on the sinister man with his back to us. The drawing here shows you the shapes I see. A buzzard-like bird shape with the light part of his hat facing left, looking at the cash register across the street. The man's mind is on the money in the register. The larger bird shape is with the dark part of his jacket, a perched blackbird facing to the right, the same direction the man is facing, watching all of the other people. The hat on the man in blue resembles a head and chest of a proud hawk or eagle standing up, another nighthawk shape in broad definitions. The man's nose is beak-like, as noted by Joe Hopper in her journal. The woman's red hair is the shape of a large perched eagle or hawk. She also has a phallic symbol in the shape of her hair by her right ear. She contemplates a sandwich. She may be getting propositioned by the man sitting next to her. She may be a prostitute. The greenish sandwich also looks like folded dollar bills. The outside arms of the couple sitting together at the bar form a lovebird's swing. The man has his right hand resting toward the girl, offering his cigarette in allegory. She reaches toward it, both looking straight ahead, pretending to ignore each other. The man's left arm hangs down behind the bar, hiding his wedding ring. The woman's bare arms make the shape of a nude person lying face up with arms and legs outstretched. A green 7 is seen in the upstairs window across the street, where the couple might hope to get lucky. The light part of the sinister man's jacket makes the shape of a naked woman face up, or a person wearing pants lying face down, telling stories of both love and murder with a single shape. The shapes on the diner employee look more like prey than any bird predator. The man's hat is a blurry shape of a scurrying white mouse, where the man might have thoughts of fleeing, but he has to stay and work. A larger dead rodent shape is curled up on the man's shoulders. The composition of dark shapes in Nighthawks could symbolize a cork in a bottle, a bullet in a gun, or sex, all with the same shapes. Rotating Nighthawks onto its right side makes the dark shape of a person with their hands down. Rotating Nighthawks onto its left side shows a person with their hands up, in passion, and also in a robbery. The shadows in the second story of the building across the street look like a large rifle facing to the right. Now let's look at symbolism in allegory. The condiments and dishware show how the people see each other. The couple sitting together only have the employee in white in their view, and in front of each of them is a coffee mug representing the coffee jerk. The diner employee can see everybody, and in front of him is the salt and pepper. He thinks the two sitting together are a couple, at least for the evening. Next to the salt and pepper in front of the diner employee is a napkin holder with napkins which resemble bare legs and a lifted skirt. Still in front of the white diner employee but toward the man with his back to us is an empty glass, which he is in the process of filling. The diner employee doesn't think anything about the man with his back to us. Hopper reinforces that no one is wise to the mobster with the sign outside only 5 cents. No one has a sixth sense about the situation. The sinister man with his back to us can see everyone else at the bar. He's keeping an eye on everyone. The items in front of him, toward the man and woman sitting together, are honey, she is a honey, napkin holder, innuendo, full salt shaker, they're both very salty individuals, and sugar, he is her sugar daddy. At the sinister man's elbow, toward the diner employee, is a salt shaker half full. He is kind of salty, but not as much as the couple. Also, the coffee mug, representing the diner employee in white, upside down, dead. The 2 silver coffee urns have legs that are symbolic of the people in the diner. The coffee urn on the left has a single visible leg representing the sinister man on the far left. This coffee urn is right on top of the diner employee, with the spigot as a small gun shape pointing down right into the coffee jerk's back. The coffee urns themselves resemble bullets. The urn on the right has 3 legs showing, representing the couple with the 2 left legs, and on the far right, the leg representing the diner employee that has more of a quadruped look with the valve attachment. The diner employee himself is also bent over like a quadruped, with arms and legs out of view and cut off. There is nowhere the man is able to run. The vintage cash register across the street resembles a short-barreled revolver face up. The triangular light reflecting on the wall hints of the cash register on a boat that is about to sail away, as you will soon see the nautical connections in Nighthawks. The seats in the diner look like the keys of the cash register, and the only person sitting on one of the keys that we can see is the man with his back to us. He will be the only one to have access to the register. A single step leads up to the building across the street. Although the sinister man gets the register, everyone is one step away from a cash transaction. Multi-referencing is where artists make a group of references in their picture. The group can be several paintings by another single artist, or several photographs by the same photographer, or a group of photos of the same person. Artists multi-reference to show themselves as a master artist and also to help tell the story in their picture. I think Edward Hopper references several groups of images related to each of these individuals and movie stills. I'm presenting them slightly out of chronological order, as I would like to start with Ernest Hemingway and finish with Franklin Roosevelt. Hopper has said that Nighthawks is about 3 people, and I believe those people are Ernest Hemingway, Frank Noel, and Tamara de Lempicka, who are all multi-referenced and still alive when Hopper painted Nighthawks and would have understood the references. The color artists in the group, Caravaggio, Wilkie, Akins, Fry, and Lempicka, all use bold primary and secondary colors in their artworks, and often a similar palette to Nighthawks. I will show you several images by Frank Noel in this video which I think are referenced in Nighthawks, and other references you can look up from the titles. All of Hemingway's passions are intertwined among the many Nighthawk references to other artists, depicting bars and cigars and guns and women and cats and boats and fishing and boxing. Hemingway was also a war veteran and honeymooned with his third wife, Martha Gellhorn, in Hawaii less than a year before. The Pearl Harbor attack happened in Hawaii. Hemingway was fond of cats, and from lines in Nighthawks, I drew a picture of a cat with droppings that would seem to indicate that Hopper did not think much of these customers at the diner. Ernest Hemingway liked to fish, especially marlin, and several photos of him show marlin caught and hanging. A dead marlin shape is seen when turning Nighthawks on its left side, the same as for the shape of a person with their hands up. Nighthawks references parts from photographs of Hemingway, and most, if not all of these, are at the John F. Kennedy Library. I will show you several referenced images when we get to Frank Noel photographs in a moment. Unfortunately, I can't afford the rights to many of the images, so I want to show you at least what I can to give you the titles. Nighthawks references several images by Caravaggio, who paints many scenes of murder and despair. Caravaggio often used the Nighthawks palette of colors. The artist David Wilkie also used Nighthawks colors, and Nighthawks references dozens of Wilkie paintings. These 2 artists illustrated a book of Don Quixote that was published from 1800 to 1803, and Nighthawks references all of the drawings in that book. Don Quixote, of course, is another knight, the knight-errant. Thomas Akins is an artist from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another Philly. Nighthawks references the writing master and the boxing picture in the mid-time between rounds, which connects nicely with Hemingway references. Akins painted boats as well, including rowing racers like the Bigland brothers and Max Schmidt. In Nighthawks, the man in white looks like he could be rowing the bar as a boat the way he's positioned, but with his arms down, his oars would be out of the water, and again nowhere to go for the diner employee. Here are Nighthawks references to 3 paintings by Akins. You can look up the other Akins paintings in museums or Wikimedia Commons. Here's a boat picture by Akins, and a person in white, and one in red, and a gun, and a fedora hat. Nighthawks is referencing the hat, the bent elbow, the shirts, facing left, and the pole. The thinker posturing his head and torso like Nighthawk's man in blue. The Gross Clinic by Akins, referencing the hand and a composite shape of a person facing to the left. Nighthawks referencing horizontals and the man facing to the right and covering his face. Figures facing to the left. Jacob Riis was a photographer who took black and white photographs of the indigent and the ruffians and the seedy parts of New York in the 1880s and 1890s. Nighthawks references dozens of photographs by Riis, and these are the titles. Henry Justice Ford was an illustrator for children's fairy tale books, full of good versus evil, and knights, and hawks, and boats, and dragons. Nighthawks references the illustrations from all the artworks of Henry Justice Ford. The name of the books are also referenced by Hopper with his strong primary and secondary colors as well. One illustration by Henry Justice Ford depicts a large reptilian head taking up almost the whole picture. Here's my drawing from lines of Nighthawks with the diner as the head of an alligator or dragon. The customers of the Nighthawks diner would be teeth, and the coffee urns would be fillings, another filly. The diner employee would be food, placed right in the center of the bar as a tongue. Frank Noel was a photographer from the Pacific Northwest who photographed Alaska and Seattle, Washington. Noel was also named the official photographer of the Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition in Seattle, Washington in 1909, and Edward Hopper references dozens of these black and white photographs of the Expo and Alaska and the Pacific Northwest, and I'm going to show you many of them here. You can see photographs of Frank Noel online on Wikimedia Commons or at the University of Washington, who has an amazing collection of photographs by Frank Noel. Here's the largest book in the world, referenced by the sinister man with his back to us. And here people positioned like the sinister man and the man in the white hat in Nighthawks. Here is the arm of the sinister man in mirror image and some other referenced images. Here is the agriculture building and referencing the foreground grass. The trees here are referenced by the people in the diner. The agricultural building from a different angle during the expo, referencing the curved sidewalk and two round coffee urn-like roofs on the building. A baby incubator exhibit at the expo, with a shiny metal cylinder like the coffee urns, and the baby as the cash register, the coveted prize in the story of Nighthawks. Here's a huge piece of lumber called the Big Stick. The lines and shapes in Edward Hopper's painting each represent not one reference, but many. The Canadian Pacific Traffic Department displaying a ship in a glass case, just like the bar is like a ship in the glass case of the building. The Nighthawk scene is like a fishbowl for us to see. The displays at the expo, separated by the columns, emphasize to me that each rectangular exhibit is a story of what happens next. The dark converging horizontals and vertical white columns are referenced in Nighthawks here. Just as Nighthawks might separate the display windows to say what happens next on the far window to the right is everyone is gone save for a dead diner employee. A very Nighthawks and early Sunday morning kind of photograph there. Hopper references the windows below as well with the building across the street. The large pipe is round like the coffee urns and also ends between the customers and the diner employee, separating them, and also emphasizing that something large and dark is about to reach the man in white. Communication wires as the window frames and a triangular antenna near the cash register, like a beacon. Dark waters with a triangular metal structure on the right and a dock with dark rectangles on the far left. A similar row of rectangular upstairs windows here. A herd of reindeer in cold Alaska in the shape of the bar in Nighthawks. The steamboat Gleaner, another boat reference with similar windows and a gray smokestack shape and a sweeping hull on the water, angled like the bar in the murky waters of the night. Here Edward Hopper references the Noel photograph of a street scene with a sign at the far right for cigars, many posts, steps, and it's a street corner. A sailboat and a steamer with 3 masts together referenced at the corner of the bar, a single pole at the far right repeated in the frame of the picture windows. A thick horizontal line tilted up on the right is referenced at the top of the diner and similar black rectangle doorways. The Wilbur steamship photograph also shows the subject of towing. The building with the cash register could be towing the diner behind it, led by the cash. 7 years after this photograph, in 1914, the Corwin famously tried to rescue a stranded ship, the Carluck, but it was a day late from other rescuers, and it also ran aground. The steamship Valencia is referenced by Nighthawks with the hull, smokestack, masts, and the water. This photograph of a school in 1906 shows Nighthawks shapes with the stove and back walls like the coffee urns and building across the street. This 1905 harbor scene has an airplane shape, and I'll also show you an airplane shape in Nighthawks in a minute. The stovetops and triangular structures are also referenced in Nighthawks. Here is a Frank Noel photograph of a coal pile with a large dark horizontal shape with an acute rectangle tower, which is referenced in Nighthawks. The locomotive and passenger car has a strong overall look to Nighthawks, with the diner as the locomotive towing the building with the cash register. The city stage on skis in Nome, Alaska in 1908. Referenced by Edward Hopper with the horse's head shape on the left side of the diner, and the cash register on the table has a similar shape to the people and the stage. Big dark rectangles with rows of rectangular windows are upstairs. The dog is shaped like the diner employee's coat. The dog sled picture shows a husky posing like the diner employee and the lead dog pointing his head to the left like the Nighthawk shape of the sinister man's hat. Several dogs are howling. The sinister man's crescent moon pocket goes with the howling wolf or dog shape in his right armpit. The Noel picture of freighting operations has similar upstairs windows as Nighthawks and a church steeple shape showing devotion near the cash register. An incredible display of wealth with these gold bricks, referenced with the woman, oval bucket tops as seats in the diner, and many rectangles of gold in the building across the street in Nighthawks. A house of bottles in White Pass Summit, Alaska, referenced in Nighthawks with the building across the street as hidden shapes of large bottles, with the upstairs windows centered exactly below a downstairs rectangle to make the bottles. Edward Hopper used similar hidden bottle shapes in his 1930 painting, Early Sunday Morning, saying it was also late Saturday night. This Frank Noel photo of hydraulic mining is referenced in Nighthawks with the light gray angle of light reflected by the cash register and the gray and white shapes of the coffee jerk and urns. The hydraulic picture also has the hidden shape of an airplane facing to the right, and I'll show you an airplane shape in Nighthawks in just a moment. The dance here takes place in Eagle Hall, another large predatory bird, and Nighthawks references the horizontal balcony and the cylinder and dome like the coffee urns, and the scroll-like corner of the diner where there is no front door. Here's my drawing of a scroll shape using lines from Nighthawks. Hopper is unrolling an incredible story in this painting. Here Edward Hopper is referencing a bank, strengthening the money theme in the story of Nighthawks. Rows of rectangular windows and a similar foreground shape, the cash register on the table to the left side of the picture, and a line of advertising outside on the building above the first floor. The schooner Gnome at the mouth of Snake River makes another connection to the hidden shape of a reptile head, which I showed you earlier in my drawing. And Nighthawks also references masts and the boat hull and the horizontal point of the land mast to the left. Here, the members of the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, all in white, references the white diner employee as a good guy, but the driver in black is referenced by the man in blue, who's driving the evening at the moment. The sinister man waits for the couple to leave before he makes his move. Here's a Noel photo from the 1909 Expo showing a horse and rider jumping a hurdle in the military athletic tournament, referenced in Nighthawks with the trees as window frames and the horse rider as the diner employee and the diner as the horse, trying to jump the sinister man, who is the obstacle and is situated between everyone and the cash register. This is a photo of the construction site for the Smith Tower in Seattle in 1911. Notice, of course, the huge sign in the upper right for Owl Cigars, referenced by the cigar ad with the cigar as the shape of a flying owl. All the ad words tilt up and to the right, and so does the Phillies ad in Nighthawks. Here is a Frank Noel photograph of a statue of George Washington being installed at the Alaska-Yukon Pacific Expo in 1909. Many large rectangular shapes from the photo are repeated in Nighthawks, and so are the head positions and hats of the construction crew. In this photo showing officials of the expo, heads with hats tilted down and to the right, referenced by the sinister man in Nighthawks, and the bell below the flag in the Noel picture looks like the tops of the coffee urns. Shapes in the flags also can be seen in Nighthawks. This Frank Noel photo shows people around a blimp, with the diner employee referencing the man in white sitting on the blimp, which does not bode well for the future of the Nighthawks diner, as Hopper connects his painting with the famous Hindenburg disaster of 1937, just 5 years before Nighthawks. The engine of the blimp is a mirror image of the shape of the cash register. This Noel photograph is of James J. Hill, a railroad executive, giving a speech from notes that remind me of another scroll. The artist Norman Rockwell made an illustration soon after Nighthawks was created called Abraham Lincoln Delivering the Gettysburg Address as a comment to Hopper's Nighthawks. In the Lincoln picture, Rockwell multi-references Frank Noel photos as well, especially this James J. Hill photo of giving a speech, and Rockwell also multi-references several Edward Hopper artworks, so artists in the know would see who Rockwell was speaking to. Nighthawks does not reference Rockwell, and this is not a message to him, but Rockwell was sufficiently impressed to make an illustration to show how monumental he thought Hopper's painting was. James Moore, a real estate developer, at the Seattle Expo in this Noel photo. He is referenced in Nighthawks with his suit, hat, bent right arm, and straight left arm, similar to the man in blue at the diner, as well as steps, rectangular windows, and a dark, thin line of a cane, and of course also his cigarette. In the Klickitat County exhibit, Nighthawks references a display table to scale and a support post on the rear door of the diner. The Lewis County exhibit here is seen with very similar lines as Nighthawks, with one step also in both images. Quite a ceiling in that exhibit. This Frank Noel photograph of the manufacturer's building at the expo has the same composition as Nighthawks if you move the building on the left to the back. Here's a photograph of Native American women selling their wares, and Hopper references the cloth shelter and the upstairs windows, as well as a mirror image of a person kneeling forward. The medical exhibit features two shiny canisters like the coffee urns in Nighthawks, and people wearing white and in similar positions. The mail carrier is referenced by the diner and the diner employee, perhaps hinting with the donkey that he's foolish to have an all-night diner, especially in this instance. Both pictures have a sweeping horizontal across the upper middle. This Frank Noel photograph of a model ship in a glass case is another reinforcement of the analogy of the bar as a boat and surrounded by glass windows as an exhibition for us viewers. Both images feature dark rectangles as well. The Olympia High School's exhibit of a kitchen with long narrow tables like the bar and the women wearing white with white caps like the diner employee. The man at the far right is positioned like the sinister man. The Oregon State Building with references to the windows, the roof, and the trees. Here's the peanut stand at the expo. 5 cents, numeral 5, small c, same as Nighthawks. The step, the rectangular shape, and another dark rectangle in shadow within, and a man in a dark suit with a fedora hat. Here's the official photography studio of the expo. Looks very similar to the building in the background of Nighthawks. Lots of dark rectangles and vertical posts. This Noel photograph shows the raising of the flagpole at the expo, with a very long log as the flagpole. The bark of the flagpole is shaved off and makes a point as it recedes in the distance, like the bright yellow acute rectangle in the Nighthawks bar. The photo also has a building with a coffee urn top and lots of the road in view. The Washington State Building reception room photo by Noel is referenced by Hopper with round tables as bar seats and rectangular decor as display tables. Lots of rectangles in both pictures. Here's the shooting gallery at the expo. Here again is a large 5-cent sign, and the subject of shooting is referenced by the story within Nighthawks. This photo at the expo shows a building with a row of rectangular windows, and the angle of the sidewalk is the same angle as the left edge of the triangle of light reflecting in the window across the street in Nighthawks. The round building and dome top is referenced by the coffee urns. This Noel photo of a huge tree stump at the expo is referenced by the woman facing the viewer, as well as 2 huge vertical logs as the coffee urns in the diner of Nighthawks. Nighthawks multi-references the artist Roger Fry. His self-portrait from 1928 strongly references Edward Hopper's self-portrait from 1925, and both portraits look like the Nighthawks man in blue. Hopper might be saying, "I'm not innocent either." Nighthawks references parts from these several paintings by Roger Fry. Nighthawks also multi-references the artist Tamara de Lempicka. Lempicka also uses strong, bold primary and secondary colors in her paintings, and these titles I think are referenced by Hopper in Nighthawks. Edward Hopper references an incredible number of movie stills in Nighthawks. The movie stills are shown in magazines, as well as in the form of lobby cards in the theaters. In these movie titles I'm showing you here, Hopper references all the movie stills from each of these movies. He references several other movies as well, but I'm just showing you the movies that I think have the most obvious references. Look at the movie titles, too. The titles are full of hints about love, murder, and war. Angels Over Broadway, Breakfast for Two, Dawn Patrol, Murder Over New York. The movie stills are full of men with fedora hats, cigarettes, coffee cups and glasses, and women facing the viewer. You can see movie stills on imdb.com, the Internet Movie Database. Last on my list of multi-references is Franklin Delano Roosevelt and photographs of him signing declarations of war with Japan and also with Germany, and having the United States enter into World War II. In this first photo, FDR is signing the declaration of war against Japan on December 8, 1941, one day after the attack on Pearl Harbor. This photograph is of FDR signing the declaration of war with Germany on December 11th, 4 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. He again has a similar pose as the Nighthawks man in blue. In the foreground of this picture, we also see a cigarette as well as a glass turned upside down in the lower left-hand corner. I want to show you again this list of references for Nighthawks, now that you've seen a few examples of multi-referencing, especially the Frank Noel photographs. Noel is just one of 13 groups of multi-references that I've found. If you look at just one photograph by Frank Noel that is referenced, you could say it's just coincidence. But if you look at all the references of the dozens of photos by Frank Noel as a group, the connection seems much more than just random comparisons. Hopper pays homage to the artists, but he also brilliantly connects the subject matters of his references with the story he's telling in his painting. Multi-referencing is an artistic language. The historical event that I'm talking about is the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Here's my drawing of a fighter plane attacking a battleship using lines from Nighthawks. The bar and coffee urns are the battleship, and the airplane is from the street outside with bar seats as bullets shooting the ship. The cash register is by the engine of the plane, an allegory for money as a driving engine of the war. Turned upside down, the plane becomes a bomber plane, dropping the cash register through its bomber doors, perhaps to say that to wage war is also a very expensive proposition.
Edward Hopper may have intended to reference other photographs of Roosevelt as well. He was fond of wearing a fedora hat, and he also had a German shepherd named Wolf in the early 1930s. So Nighthawks is about the couple sitting together looking to get intimate later in the evening, and the man with his back to us, the sinister man, is looking to murder the diner employee and steal the cash from the cash register. And all of it is connected to the attack on Pearl Harbor and the U.S. entering into World War II and the sinister thoughts and deeds involved with war. Now, once you know an artist like Edward Hopper can create such a sophisticated work of art, then you'll look at other artworks by Hopper and see what kind of story they might tell. A picture might be worth 1,000 words, but what if a picture is worth 1,000 pictures? Thanks for watching.